There we go. We're going to be live any minute on YouTube, which will be
Great.
exciting. You see, it's loading, so I'm not sure if we are on YouTube or not yet. But
I
let me
think it
see.
probably is. There's a slight lag and delay. There's
On
some.
YouTube, which will be, yes, we are on YouTube. This is exciting. We made it work. We made it work.
Wow.
Fabulous. Well, Lee, thank you so much for your patience and everybody who was waiting for us here on YouTube or maybe Facebook or LinkedIn. I'll make a quick notification about this. We are live on YouTube because with the Supermaster Lever, we're trying to work out this system work. And I must say, I think one of the great qualities what we both have shown here, Lee, is the patience, isn't it?
Yes, we had 20 minutes of audio not working. So I guess we've worked it out somewhere. And literally, we don't know what we've done, but something's happened, right? So it's working.
Exactly. Exactly. But Lee, I'm so excited to have you today in the studio to actually talking about
Pleasure.
how to be good at work, at home, but being good, 100% is being fabulous at what you do. And I must say, I was really looking forward to it because I know how professional you are. Not only a really good speaker who is motivational speaker, you have fabulous website. I'll be honest, I checked it out. But also you're author of 12 books. So you must be doing something really good in that case.
Well, I always make the joke. I often make the joke on stage that because I do a little quiz sometimes about me, and I get the audience to guess, and I say, oh, I've written 12 books, and then I usually say my friends think that's really funny because they think I've written more books than I've read. That's the little joke that I use. So, but that's why you have those friends in your life, you know. So yeah, that's cool. So yeah, over a long time, over a long period of time, and I want to write a little book. So the next one in my head, Olga, is Get Good at Work, and like as a little tiny pocket book that people can take with them to the workplace and just open it and get a little bit of inspiration and stuff. So I'll probably work on that in the next few months, depending on what happens in this exciting time that we're in. So,
I love the idea because I think everybody could do with actually a little bit of inspiration in the middle of the day, or maybe when they are just stuck in the traffic and they can just open the book and quickly
yeah.
check it. Or maybe there's someone you on like on the tube in London when they really are stuck there and it's really hot, like today is boiling hot. So honestly, Lee, if you would have this book by now, I think I could do with some inspiration, especially before these live. And actually, we had so many troubles.
Well, that's it. We're professional speakers. We should be able to make it work, I guess.
Exactly, exactly. And that's the point. Never give up and always make sure you give 100% and you do your best to make it work because things will happen and technology will let you down and people will not show up or anything else can happen. But I think that professionalism is always shown in the way how you
Yeah.
handle situations when they don't go right.
Well, hopefully. I mean, yeah, I've seen over the years. I've seen when you were a speaker, as you know, Olga, when you go to an event, you know, remember those days when we went to events? Ah, those heady days of meeting real people. So you go to an event and then you'd see 3 or 4 speakers before you or a couple after you, and I'm sometimes really shocked that some speakers can be quite rude to other people in the venues. You know, they can be rude to the sound person. I once saw someone having a real go at the sound guy at the back of the desk, you know, and I'm like, these people need to be your friends. You know, you need to be, you know, you need to be on it from the moment you leave your house to the moment you come back home. And that's why our job sometimes is exhausting. I mean, I'm not a doctor operating with PPE on at the moment, so I understand it's not a proper job in that way. But actually, our job can be really tiring because we are kind of on it, you know, and we need to be good to people. We need to, well, for me, my thing is helping people to get good. So how can I not? How can I leave a negative view? You know, I mean, I'm not perfect. Gosh, ask my wife, Olga. Seriously, but at the same time, I want to, you know, I want to be someone who's known for, you know, I guess being friendly and being good at what I do. I mean, why would we not want that? You know.
Exactly. And I think if everybody will just take your approach of doing their best and aiming and being the best at what they do, I think the world itself will be definitely a different place. And as we obviously, as you mentioned in the topic of this session, that it doesn't matter where you are. You could be at work, you could be at home, or like right now, the entire world is at work, being at home, right? But when you are actually doing your best, when you're really giving that 100%, and actually when you get respected, this when actually you really move on with your career. This when actually you also open up so many opportunities for yourself. So it can
Yeah,
be.
I think it's important that, I mean, the title that you put on about the 100% thing is quite an interesting one. It's something I'm sure we could talk about for hours and hours and hours, because actually it's not, we can't always be 100% the whole time, because that is a recipe for failure. So what I love to think about is I love to think about seasons. So we as human beings are in seasons, seasons of work. At the moment, we're in a pandemic season, a kind of a post-lockdown or semi-lockdown season at time of recording this. So we're in a different season for a different reason. So I think part of it is understanding. And sometimes, the reason that you go home to your family and relax is because you've given everything at work. You might have given 100% or maybe 90%, and you come home and then relax. So I think we have to be a little bit careful that we don't send the message saying we should be 100% at everything the whole time, because everyone will do it for 5 minutes and then realize that they'll fail, and then they'll never try it ever again. So as a motivational speaker, when I speak about get good at work, I'm really keen to help people to understand that it's, motivation is like that. It's up and down, and we as humans are up and down, and it's how to maintain less of the downs and a few more of the ups, and a little bit, because I mean our life, if it was like this, it'd be really boring. So
It
that, there's going to be those times, isn't there? So that it's a little bit about riding the wave a little bit, riding the roller coaster. Those kind of metaphors, I think they really work, and that really helps us to understand that, yeah, it's not about, you can't be on it the whole time, because I've met people that appear to be like that, but actually they don't last very long,
Yeah.
or they have a different career, or it's the kind of person that does a job for 6 months and then moves on to the next one. And you think, why do you keep doing that? Because they're kind of running from something. So what I love to teach, what I love to share is just become more comfortable in your own skin.
Mm.
Become comfortable in your own skin. And I guess in your coaching, Olga, you do a lot of that, right? Helping people to be more comfortable with who they are and stuff.
It's true. It's true. And you know what I love here actually during this session, Lee, that you are challenging me now. Because when I was making that post of 100%, because this is who I am, I give 100%.
Cool.
But what maybe I should have specified, and thank you so much for this, what I should have specified, give 100% when actually you are in the moment, right? Because I think you're so right. You are so, so right. Because being 100% across all levels all the time means probably burnout. And so many people burn out because they really push themselves too hard across every possible level. And recently, actually, you'll be surprised because probably you know me, and everybody else knows me as very bubbly and very high energy and like always laughing and always happy. But believe me or not, last few days, you probably would see me mainly on my double sun lounge in the garden, being like a starfish and sunbathing, because that's all what I felt like doing. And I was thinking to myself, okay, that's really odd. That's not you. That's not who you are. You're always pushing and giving 100%. And I realized, yes, but that's me giving 100% now to my me time. So,
Exactly. And so it's about, and the understanding that is that you have to be comfortable enough in your own skin to allow you to have time to yourself.
yes.
And even if you're a busy mum or dad and you've got a full-time job, you've got kids at home, I've been there, I've done that. My kids are at home now, but they're a little older. They're 21. I've got twins. And so but even when I was a dad and there were toddlers, there was moment, about 7:30, you get them into bed, you run around the house, you tidy things up, and then you just need to have that 20 minutes to yourself to just like
Mhm.
sink into the sofa, maybe watch your favorite TV program or something, and then you get up and do whatever else you do. So it's almost about, I find that a lot of people at work, a lot of leaders particularly, they don't give themselves permission to do nothing.
Yes.
Like you were listening to your body and your mind yesterday, and you were thinking, you know what, I'm just going to sunbathe for a bit, That's a great thing, Olga. It's because you're in touch with yourself. It means you're connected. And a lot of people just think, I must keep going. I must keep going. Um, and, and unfortunately, that's where burnout often happens, and that's never a good thing, right?
No, no, because then unfortunately leads to many other complications with your health, with your relationship
Yeah.
issues, you're losing a job eventually, and then going on to probably job seekers allowance or anything else. So, okay, there's so many complications. So, and I always believe in preventing and also here, but also the reason why I said 100% is possibly also coming from relationship point of view, because very often when I coach people and they come to me and they say, well, I just met somebody and I'm not sure, but I'll be just careful as I walk into these relationships. And this always freaks me out because I'm thinking, well, in that case, what's the point to go into relationships at all? Right? Because when you don't give 100% in these relationships and you hold back, let's say 10% or 20% or 30%, but you hold back because, oh, what if they cheat on you? What if they leave you? What if something happens? There's so many fears, but you hold back those 10 to maybe 30, maybe 50%, but other person can sense it
Yeah.
and they also start holding back. If at work we don't give, whilst we are at work and we are there and we feel like, okay, I got to work, and now if I don't give myself, if I don't do myself just best for what I can, what I'm capable at, then boss will see that you're actually not giving 100%.
Mm.
Also going to ruin your relationship. So it doesn't really matter, I think, what type of relationships, and also with yourself. Because if
Yeah.
that's
I was really fascinated because, I mean, we've chatted lots of times, haven't we, Olga? But I don't really know you that well, I guess. But we've had lots of business chats, haven't we?
yeah,
And cups of coffee and stuff like that. So, but I would, yeah, I mean, but so when you sent me the post of what we're doing today, I looked at the post and I read underneath, I think it was your Instagram or something, and you said your aim is to reduce the divorce rate or something,
oh yes, that's,
right?
yeah, that's my yeah, that's my oh.
And I
If
was like, that's a big goal. I like that. I like that. That is something, and you've gone out there and you've said it, and that's a real challenge for lots of people. But I think you're right. There's yeah. The first talk I ever did professionally was called the 3 R's, and it was in a school not too far away from where I'm standing now, a school in Leeds, one of my favourite schools, and it's called the 3 R's. And the 3 R's are relationships, relationships, and see if you can guess the third one.
relationships.
Relationships, yeah. And I was teaching the kids, the importance of relationships, and that everything in life is a relationship at some point,
Mhm.
right? So we've just had a stressy 20 minutes where our microphones weren't working or stress a lot. If I treated you terribly, that's damaged our relationship. If you treated me and said, Lee, why aren't we doing this? That's our relationship is damaged. But
Yes.
actually, it's a relationship because I don't know whether I'll know and work with you in 20 years time, but I'll always aim because I want to do that, because I want to keep that relationship right. And if I get it wrong, then I'll apologize. But even going into a shop and asking for a dress or a shirt, um, you still have to have a relationship with the person in the shop. You have to ask, have you got this in a different size or a different color? So life, even the little micro things like getting a coffee or going into a clothes shop is a relationship, right down to our parents, our kids, and of course our significant other, our partner, husband, wife, whatever you want to call them. It's very complicated these days. Our significant other person, to understand that that's one of the priorities in our lives, and it's also really difficult.
Mm.
And sadly, over the years, if I'm really honest with you, I've seen a lot of people work very hard on their personal goals, on their work-related goals, and then not worked on their personal relationship stuff. And then the wheel, the coach's wheel that everyone uses, right? That
Yes.
everyone, yeah. So you color it in, and where's the wheel? You're meant to have the wheel. It's meant to be balanced. But of course, I see a lot of people in it. It might be 8 things on the wheels are really high, but then the marriage or the relationship thing is really far down.
Yes.
And that's when people separate and drift apart, and it's very sad. And I'm not saying you got to be careful when you say this stuff, because I know there's abusive partners I
Yes.
know stuff goes wrong. I'm not making any excuses for that. But I think for me personally, I've understood that I have to work on my speaking craft. I have to work on my work and getting good, the business of my business, as well as the speaking of my business. But also, I need to work on my marriage to my wife, Claire. And I have to work on the relationship with my kids. And when they're 21, we have a lot of, heated discussions because they're grown-ups now, and we have lots of great discussions, but it's the difference. So yeah, this is going quite deep, isn't it, Olga? This is going quite deep.
It is. And I love that actually. I really love that. But actually, we have a question here. Would you be open to questions?
Of course, yeah, yeah. As
Yeah.
long
We
as it's
have
not too rude.
no, no, I would never read rude questions. So I would actually delete them straight away. No, I never accept those. We actually have Paul who joined us from UK Wales. And Paul
Hi,
is
Paul.
asking, how many years have you been speaking for schools? He says it's very interesting. So here's the question.
Oh, so I do a little less schools now because of budget cuts and things. There's a thing obviously called austerity. You might have heard of that, where a lot of schools have a lot less money. So I still do some schools, but not quite as many as I used to. But I first started in 1994. I started as a schools worker. So I was like a youth worker that worked in schools. And so on the first week of my job, I walked into the assembly hall and the head teacher said to me pretty much like, go and talk to that lot for 10 minutes. And so that's what I had to do. So I had to learn, I talk about getting good, right? That's my brand, right? I had to learn to get good at presenting pretty quickly in front of 600 11 to 14-year-olds. Um, so when I do business presentations, I always say, oh, it's dead easy working with adults, because they're usually paid to be there. Whereas with kids, they don't want to be at school and they don't really want to listen to you. So you have to sort of really grab their attention quickly. So yeah, schools has been good fun over the years, and I've learned so much in schools, and I hope until I am no more, I hope that I will continue to work in schools at some point, whether it's free or paid, who knows. But yeah, I love them, and they're wonderful places. They're not for the faint-hearted. You gotta be ready. You gotta be ready. You gotta know your stuff, and you gotta get in there and you gotta deliver it. You can't be messing about or thinking, I wonder if I should just. No, you need to grab them and not literally because you'd get banned, but you gotta
Yes.
create engagement with them. And so
Yes.
yeah, I still love working in schools, and yeah, it's good fun. Good fun.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I must say, Lee, I definitely agree with you. And kids are such a wonderful bunch of people, which they will never hide if they don't like something. We adults, we're so polite. When we listen to somebody and they're quite boring, we will quietly go on the phone. We'll probably just sit and think about something. We'll start drawing. We'll start quietly writing notes to each other and have conversations silently. Kids don't do that. If they don't like you, they're gonna let you know. So I think any speaker who really wants to grow some balls in speaking, they need to go to school and literally speaking at schools, because if you manage to grasp that skill to really build really strong bond with kids and entertain
Yeah.
them whilst it's 5, 10, 20, or even 40 minutes. My longest talk at school was 40 minutes. And when I was asked for that, I was like, did you say 40 minutes? Like, you don't do it to children. But yeah,
Right. Yeah.
40
When I
minutes.
was yeah, you've got to. It's yeah. So my advice for speakers in school is don't go until you're ready. So that
Yes.
they're not places to try out stuff. Don't
No.
go. You know your stuff. Like
Yeah.
seriously, because even in a 10-minute assembly, they do it.
Oh,
Someone said to me years ago. They said to me, "Do the schools ever give you any feedback sheets? Do the kids fill out any feedback forms?"
sure.
And I say, "No, seriously, you don't need a feedback form. You can see it on their faces like instantly." And I'll tell you a story. It was actually at the same school, yeah, not only about a mile from where I'm standing now in Leeds. And I was in that school, and I was doing a talk, and it was probably a bit boring. It wasn't one of my best many years ago. And then I suddenly went off piste, and I started talking about the story about when me and my wife Claire met at a festival. So I
Oh,
told them the story about when we met, and all of a sudden I saw 600 sets of eyes lift up, and suddenly they were looking at me.
yeah.
And that's when I discovered the power of story that day,
Yes.
because I was giving them facts and information. They were like, yeah, whatever. And as soon as I gave a little part of me away, because they were like, oh, this is interesting. And they were like dead interested. And then I told that story. So I always remember, and even when I do presentation skills now, which is like, like 60% of my work, really, sort of half. And then I always teach storytelling, because you can just, boom, you just hit it. And that's what gets people's attention. So you've got to be careful not to give too much away, because you have to be professional. But I think the reason we find our jobs sometimes emotionally tiring, coaching and speaking and stuff and training, is because we're giving something of ourselves away.
Mm.
And I'm aware that I need to recover that sometimes. I don't tell people too much, but they get to know me as a person. I tell stories, and there's definitely an emotional transaction that takes place. You give something away, right? If you've been coaching 4 people in a day, you must be pretty tired by the end of the day, Olga, right?
You see, what's interestingly, I heard so often from people who do get tired, and I'm asked this question on a regular basis. And also, those new coaches who work with me, I coach them to build their coaching business.
Okay.
I know it sounds bizarre. Why would I coach my competitors? But I do believe we need more people who actually can do it professionally. You know what's really interestingly? I don't. I know
Wow.
it's bizarre, and I know everybody's saying, like, how do you do it? I think because I bounce off and I exchange energy. And when you give energy, I think I just bounce off. And there's even with the audience, when I walk into the room, and that's why I don't like scripting. Even this conversation today, as you know, there was no questions, there was nothing scripted. I knew it's going to be natural and will be all what the audience need to hear. So when I go onto the stage, when I go to the school, doesn't matter where I am, or even with the client, I always just connect to myself, and I make sure that whatever comes out from my mouth is not what I want to say, but what's supposed to be said. And there's a little ritual which I do, which is literally connecting with myself, and it's asking for guidance and being led to help and serve. That's what I'm asking every time, whether I'm one to one or whether I'm one to the audience. And I think maybe that's why I don't get tired. But that was such a journey for me, because in the beginning, I was always stressed, I was worried, I was thinking how it's going to go, I was pre-planning too much and being quite good, I think, at organizing stuff. Of course, I do like sometimes as well. I was over organizing and I was over planning, and that was draining me. So I used to be drained before I even start. But now what I do, I connect, and I literally, and sometimes it's so weird, especially if I'm on a stage and there are lots of people in front of me. I almost feel like I'm in this tube and it's only me and the audience. It's so surreal. It feels really surreal. And I can't.
Question there. Are you an extrovert?
No, I'm introvert. I know it's really bizarre again, but
Wow.
I am introvert. Yes, I'm introvert. But when I'm there for them. I know, Lee. Yes, I know. It doesn't sound right. I know. It
I,
doesn't.
I, I think you're just a unique person, Olga, right? You're just a unique person, right?
Thank you. I'll take that. I'll take that. I just think it's a weirdo, right? Okay, I'll take that. It's a unique person. But you see, I think it hasn't been an easy journey, I must say. It was something that I had to practice. And one lady, when I used to be a member of American Association for Women Speakers, I asked her this question. I said, why every time when I go onto the stage, or if I'm just about to work with a client, why whatever I prepare, it just goes blank? And then I almost feel like I'm receiving, which I can't explain, but whatever I say, I can see by the reaction, it fits. And that used to freak me out. Honestly, I couldn't grasp it. I couldn't understand it. I couldn't live with that. So for a while, I stopped everything because I was like, well, I don't understand what's happening. And she told me, she said, Olga, think about a speaker. Who is a speaker? Whether it is one-to-one or one-to-an audience, a speaker is literally just like a tool, right? Just like a tool, a box. And whatever you transmit to the speaker will give it away to whoever is in the room. So you are just guided, and you are guided by what you're supposed to say to the audience at that right moment. And since that day, my life completely changed. And I was like, well, that's easy. All I have to do is just connect and feel. And when I feel, then I actually exchange this energy. And maybe that's why I don't get tired. I don't know. but I
Well,
don't.
you're definitely a very energetic person. You seem to be full of life. So, but it's interesting there. So if I was coaching you, I'm listening to you. Then I'm thinking, right, that's interesting. That's interesting. Not everyone's like that. But the
Yeah,
key to what you said there is I now prepare differently for it.
yeah,
That's what you said. So you now have a ritual, a routine, or whatever. I talk about routines quite a lot when I'm teaching presentation skills. Get good at work too. It's about having a better routine,
mm,
because when you have a better routine, your life turns out better. So you've got a better routine that prepares you more to being tired. But I still get tired. There's no doubt. But just so the audience is clear, it's a happy tired,
yeah,
not a miserable tired, right?
mm,
So I'm buzzing, but I'm quite happy. So at the end of if I'm doing training day, which is a longer day, maybe 5 6 hours, I'm doing maybe teaching one of my two subjects in all day. Well, my wife Claire knows just to leave me alone for an hour when I get home. So I put on some rubbish TV, Fresh Prince of Bel Air, Friends, Salvage Hunters, something that doesn't require much brain power, not a documentary, right?
mm.
I'll have a nice cup of tea, maybe a biscuit. I might treat myself. And after that hour, it's like I just do a reset and I come out after an hour and I'm ready to go then. And I'm back in the room. Do you know what I mean? But for me, I just need that little hour. But you're like you're just bouncing off the walls maybe in a different way. So yeah, you're different. You're different to me, maybe. I don't know. But I like that. I like that.
I think everybody's different. I think that's why what is amazing about this world and people around us, that everybody is so different. And I think there's so much we can learn of each other and bounce off each other with ideas. And that's why I was so excited to have you today on this show, because when you came up with this name of the show, like how to get good at work or at office, I thought, yes, that's a really amazing thing. Let's talk about it. And actually, it sounds like really obvious, like, of course you should be good. But Lee, how can we get good? Okay, it's obvious we should be, but
Yeah.
how?
Good.
That's the question. So could you please elaborate more?
Wow. Yeah, how long have we got? Right, we can. Okay, so in a nutshell, how to get good at work. Number one is about awareness. So understand who you are and what makes you tick and how you are motivated. So motivation comes from two places. It's intrinsic, so it comes from inside, or it's extrinsic. It comes from the outside. So example of that is I love to play. When before lockdown, I played basketball. I've been out for a run with my daughters today. I'm trying to just keep some level of fitness because I can't play basketball at the moment because you can't be in a room with people. But when I played basketball, if I was intrinsically motivated, I just play it because I love it for no other reason than I just love it. So I'm intrinsically motivated. I might read because I just like the subject, or listen to an audiobook because I just like the author. I might tidy my office just to feel a bit organized. That's intrinsic motivation. Extrinsic is more of a push and a pull. So I'd play basketball to lose weight, or I'd play basketball to win a cup or a prize. I would read because I've got a new talk I need to prepare. So I'll read around that subject. Maybe I've got an exam to take, so I'd read for that. And maybe I'd tidy my office because you were going to come and visit me, Olga. So it'd be you see what I mean? So the
Yeah.
office would still get tidied, but it's from different places. So number one, as I think, is understanding yourself, introvert, extrovert, where you get your motivation from. And listening to you, I would say you're quite deeply intrinsically motivated to
Mm.
make a difference. A lot of the things that you've talked about are quite internal, really. You probably, I'm sure you have external goals and things stuck on your wall and all that. But I feel a depth with you that's quite intrinsic. And some people aren't. If you're a hardcore salesperson, you'll just have numbers on a board and you just have to hit those numbers. No one really cares what happens. You just got to hit those numbers. And for some people, they love that. For me, does nothing for me at all. So I like to help people to get good. So the phrase is to help people to get good, which is basically another way of saying I love to make a difference. Now I like getting paid when I make a difference because I have a value of a service, but at the same time, oh, my phone, my daughter's ringing. I should have switched that off. Sorry, but that's never happened before. It's because we were on the call, you see, early, and but I, at the same time, I'm understanding who I am and what makes me tick. So that, and I think often at work, people go to their job or their career, and they never stop and think, why do I do this? They never stop to think, who am I? And they never stop to think, why do I do this? And so what I have the privilege is going into companies and organizations and just having them for an hour or two. And I just say, let's just press pause on your job for a moment. Why do you do what you do? Why are you here and not stacking shelves in Sainsbury's half a mile down the road? Why are you here and not there? And just when people start thinking that, they start, oh, because I've got some good friends here, because I make some good money here. I feel like I'm developing here. I helped my clients save some money, etc., etc. So that's two of the big reasons. So if, coaches all the time, they talk about finding your why, but it's
Yeah.
such a deep thing.
Mhm.
It's way before Simon Sinek made it popular a few years ago. I do this little thing about every motivational speaker in the world talks about the why, the how, and the keeping on going. That's our job in a nutshell. So why do you do something? How do you do something? So it's learning those skills. So the interpersonal skills, or these practical job skills. So how do I use a microphone? How do I speak to a camera? These are practical skills. And then thirdly, we spend a lot of time talking about resilience. And I love hearing stories about resilience. And I collect them, Olga. So I collect loads of stories about resilient people and stuff. And I just absolutely love that. And so, yeah, that's it in a 5-minute nutshell, but it's a 1 or 2 hour explanation of all that. But
Which honestly, I would love to hear the whole entire story because in initial, yes, it's understandable. And for
yeah,
me, it's like, yeah, of course, like, it's common sense, but I know there are so many people who
yeah,
need to hear it in depth. And I know that so many people never even came across this thing. So that's why I'm so passionate about bringing people like yourself who actually can give more depth and more explanation about why it's important to know yourself, to also have your why, and to be resilient, and many other things as well. But
yeah.
which one do you think is the most challenging to either grasp or kind of, yeah, get hold of out of all which you mentioned? Which is the hardest?
Well, the how is what we have to do anyway. So the how is the easiest. It's just learning how to use an Excel spreadsheet. It's just the why is the deeper work, which requires a coach maybe, or reading some books. But actually the hardest is the resilience piece, which is how, or I call it, how to keep on going. Now, how to keep on going is a nice thing to talk about, but when it's really hard is when you're at the bottom of the pit, and when you're at the bottom of the graph and you're having a bad day. So I say pretty much towards the end of one of my talks, I say, look, I've done this talk dozens or hundreds of times, and the one thing I've learned is the people who make it are the people who learn what to do on their not so good days. It's the people who learn, what do you put into practice when you don't feel like it.
Love
Because
that.
everyone can be resilient when they're feeling happy and the sun's shining like it is now. We can all go for a walk and we'll go and get an ice cream, and I'm feeling very resilient. What were we like on March the 20th, the first part of lockdown, when all of my work stopped?
Yes.
All of my work stopped. The speaking industry, the training, the learning industry, the events industry just fell off a cliff in the middle of March.
Mhm.
And now it's coming back. I've had lots of client calls this week and stuff like that. It's being picked up. But I tell you what, that was a scary few weeks. And a lot of my friends we were often ringing each other, how are you? And I was checking in with my mastermind group, which is another little tip. So be in a group that keeps you resilient, people who ask you difficult questions. Probably haven't got time to talk about that now, but I would, we were having weekly Zoom calls at the start of lockdown, and we
Mm.
were saying, what are we working on this week? How do you feel? That important question, not just a business goal. How do you feel right now? And some of it, we had good weeks and bad weeks, and we have good days and bad days. And I will just say this to who's listening, because this might be important to somebody. um, our mutual friend Pam Burrows from the
Yeah.
PSA, brilliant Pam, well-being expert, she said something a few weeks ago which stuck with me, and I've researched it and I absolutely love it. And it was this little phrase, and she said, you need to remember in the lockdown and in the pandemic, because you might be back at work now, in this pandemic, we are all carrying a load that we didn't carry before.
I love that. Yes. Oh,
So
yes.
maybe that's one of the reasons why you just fancied some time off, because you're carrying a load. Uh, Last Saturday, I don't think I did anything last Saturday. I pretty much did nothing for the day
Good.
because that's what I needed to do. Do you know what I mean? I watched a couple of films, went to the local shop maybe, but that was it. And I looked at my Apple Watch, which tracked my movement, and my Apple Watch was saying, "You need to move something, Lee, because nothing's happening today." Because we're all carrying a load. So part of the resilience thing is understanding where we're at now, understanding ourselves, and then deciding, how do I make a better routine that keeps me more resilient in the short, medium, and the long term. So anyway, I'll go on forever. So you better stop me, Olga, I think.
Oh no, I could listen for you to you forever, honestly, because I love the fact how you actually are addressing the fact is not only how resilient you are on the top, but how resilient you are when you're at the bottom. And the difficult thing when you're at the very bottom is your head, your own mentality. Because it's very easy to start doing something manual. It's very easy to go cycling, to go running, to do something physical. But it's really challenging to switch off that thing called thinking. And that thinking is exactly what affects us most. Because when we are already at the rock bottom, when we are trying to push through, when we are testing few things, when we are pushing and challenging ourselves and coming up with new ideas, that inner voice is always there. And actually, I love how Pam, she also talks about how to be Yeti. She says, okay, maybe you're not confident yet, but then say to yourself, I'm not
No,
confident yet. Right? Maybe I'm not strong enough, but I'm not strong enough yet. And I love the fact how she says, and she addressed that really, really massively, the fact that just add that little yet, and that will help you to go through those lowest points of your life, because we all had them. Like I had them. My life was up and down, right?
yeah,
And I wouldn't be who I am now if not my life going up and down, right? And I'm sure you had your lows
yeah,
and your highs as well. So I love the fact that you address the importance of having your routine and having something what keeps you going even when you are at your lowest point, because that's going to come, whether pandemic. And to be honestly, let's face it, we didn't have any crisis for longer than 10 years. I mean, it should be, people should be daft not even realizing there will be no crisis. Okay, we all know history repeats itself in a cycle. And I'll be honest, maybe I was one of those thinking, where is the crisis? I don't want to say I attracted the crisis, but I was literally thinking at some point we're gonna hit the
yeah.
crisis. I knew it's gonna happen because I know the history. It happens all the time. You have high, you have lows. And I was wondering what exactly gonna happen. I was just hoping we're not gonna have the Third World War III. Okay, we have pandemic situation, which is I'm not sure which is worst. Okay, I think both of them are really bad and quite heavy to overcome. But same time, things will happen no
Yeah,
matter where you are, things will happen. So listen to Lee.
absolutely.
Anybody who's watching us right now, or if you're watching this on the replay, contact Lee because he's the person to speak to when it comes to how to be good, not only when you're on a high, but also when you're on the low. As I just said, come up with a routine. But Lee, do you mind to share your secret routine? Because I'm sure you have your secret routine, which actually helps you to keep going, a part of your mastermind, which I agree is a must have.
Hmm. Gosh, yeah, there's lots of different things, isn't it? The mastermind group is from, so I'm in two groups. This one is for work, and that's my mastermind group. So it's work focused. It is personal too, but it's 90% work focused. What are you marketing? What are you developing? What are you pushing? Are you writing a book? Are you doing videos? Are you doing stuff like this with Olga? You know, it's those kind of questions. That is one. The other group that I'm in, which people don't know much about, is I'm in a personal accountability group with two or three of my very good friends. And for over 20 years, we've met together and had curry, uh, pizza, Chinese, go for a beer, or just meet here in my office or wherever. We meet together and we ask ourselves difficult questions that we permission each other to ask. And it's usually about our personal life. How's your marriage? How's your relationship with your kids? You know, and some stuff about career, but more personal, like how are you feeling? How are you? And it gets really it's really encouraging, but it gets really personal because
Mhm.
I give permission to those guys to ask those questions of me, and that's what I do to them. And one of them the other day was having a bit of a struggle, and we supported. But the other day, you know, a couple of weeks ago, there was someone in the group, and actually they needed a bit of a hard word from us. So we said, "No, I don't think that's a good thing. So how are you going to stop doing that, or how are you going to do a better routine to get you out of these things?" So I'm not going to give away any information because it's
Right.
private, but it's, yeah. So I have a business accountability group in effect and a personal accountability group, and that is really scary but amazing at the same time.
Wow, I'm thinking the same thing because when you have to open up, you really need to commit to give those 100% during that time when you really open up
Yeah.
and you share. Otherwise, what's the point to even be there? You rather don't have a
and
meeting like that.
and remember, we are blokes,
Oh,
so
yes.
right. So this is not a sexist thing at all. I've done lots of research on gender. Right, men find it harder to talk.
Yeah.
Right, it's as simple as that. Men find it harder to talk. Right, so my wife Claire will happily go to the coffee shop with her friends, and she'll pour her heart out over a coffee for 2 hours. Blokes don't really do that on the whole.
Yeah.
So a little tip: a good time to talk to a bloke is in a car when you're both facing forward and not in each other's eyes. Good little tip there. I wrote some books for men back in the days, and the other thing is that the reason I say that is because because we can't we can't get away from the fact that male suicide is the
Mhm.
biggest killer of
Yeah.
men under the age of 40, and that is a scary statistic. And that, in lots of ways, would be lessened and would be smaller if men would find other men that they could talk to.
Yes.
And I see lots of men's movements now of men doing that. But that's the reality. So one of the reasons I'm in that group is because I want someone that I can bounce ideas off. I want someone to tell me if I'm being a bit of an idiot.
Mm.
That's called accountability,
Yep.
and it's really unfashionable, Olga.
Mm.
Really unfashionable, but it really works. And you know, I value those guys right at the top of this. I've got about 5 good mates in my life, and those 2 or 3 guys are right at the top of that list. And um, so, so, so I'm going on a bit now, but it's quite funny. So, someone said to me, "You know, someone is really your friend when they pick you up from the airport without questioning it."
Oh, there we go. That's true.
Right? When
Secret friendship.
you say to them, "Look, I've just landed at the airport. You come pick me up." "Yeah, I'm in the car now, mate. No problem." That's when you know the level of friendship that you have. And these guys would all get in a car and pick me up from an airport, and I love that. And we need to have good friends, male or female, whatever your background is. We need to have good friends. It's as simple as that. You know.
That's true. And I love the fact how in the beginning you spoke about relationships, how important it is to build good relationships. And actually, friendship is also another level of relationships.
True.
And in fact, if you can't build a friendship, which usually is getting built based on your common interest and something what you have in common, you don't have to live with that person. So you don't have to go into depth of that person. But if you can't build that level of relationship called friendship, how can you build any other relationships?
Yeah. Good stuff. Gosh, we could stay here all day, couldn't we? It's
We
great.
could, absolutely, but I'm really mindful of your time because I do know you have to go. And also, let's not keep our listeners for too long. But Lee, I really enjoyed having you here. Honestly, the value what you shared with us about how to be good, it's so, you know what's interesting? It's so common sense because everything what you mentioned is common sense. We're all aware of that, but we don't really pay attention to that.
Yeah.
And for you to actually coming here and saying, and particularly what I took away from this session is the fact that you have to have a really strong routine when you are going through your low moments, which everybody had during this lockdown. People were let back from work, they were furloughed, they were not having any job like you and I as a speakers. We had to come up with new solutions. I mean, my coaching didn't suffer at all, but that's coaching because one to one. But yes, speaking was obviously different. It was cancellations here and there. And it's quite remarkable how you point out something so simple and so easy to apply. Come up with few things which will keep you going. And I love the fact that you have personal accountability group. I think I need to come up with something like that as well. So thank
Sure.
you, Lee, for your inspiration. Thank you, Lee, for your knowledge and your wisdom which you brought here. But could you share with us before you go, what is your favorite topic to speak on? I know you are professional and you're a master when it comes to how to be good at work, okay? But what's your favorite topic to talk about? What's your most passion to talk about? So if anybody's watching us right now can actually hear that and relate to that and book you for the future.
Yeah, yeah. So, like I said, everything I do is get good. So I do get good at work, get good at presenting, get good at school, get good at leadership. But really, I do get good at work, get good at presenting the most. And if I could just speak about one thing, could be the relationships thing, but I think it's probably the resilience thing.
Oh,
I,
wow.
I love giving people the down to earth advice where all of a sudden I'll show you these. All of a sudden, you can hear them in their brain, and their brain goes,
Yeah.
and they
Go on.
go, I can really use that. And when I hear people's brain like that in a live situation, which I hope to get back to as soon as we can,
Yes.
um, when I see that, and I think when people can say I can be a bit more resilient,
Yeah.
it's just I absolutely love that. And yes, it's just great. I love seeing people change. I love seeing people encouraged and walking out of a session challenged, but with a smile on their face too.
Oh,
So
that's amazing. You know, Lee, I did not attend your speaking session yet, but I'm really looking forward to actually hear you speak one day, witness you
pleasure.
one day, and to witness that, as you said, down to earth knowledge passed on to you. Because I think it is quite easy to look all smart and use the jargon, but very often it switches off. It switches off people's minds straight away because people thinking, I don't understand what you talk about. But when you mention things like, I explain in a very easy and accessible way, down to earth way, things about resilience and many other topics. I mean, of course I would come. And everybody else also would come.
Cool.
So, those who are looking for somebody who is so motivational, knows his stuff, professional, and is in this industry for so many years, Lee is definitely a person for you. But also, Lee, how people can find you? Do you mind to share your details? Obviously, I will
Yeah.
mention them below the video, but I would love you to share your details.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty easy to find on Google. Lee Jackson Speaker, just Google that, you'll find me. But leejackson.biz is my main website, leejackson.biz. Connect with me on LinkedIn. If you go to my main website, all the LinkedIn, Twitter is all on the top right-hand corner. Let's connect on, and I do a lot of, I give away lots of videos, lots of stuff on LinkedIn, and yeah, it'd be good to connect in that way. So leejackson.biz, all the information's there, and if I can help your work or organization or whatever, just please do get in touch. And thanks for having me, Olga. You're a pleasure. You're a pleasure to be interviewed by. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, it was a pleasure to have you. I'm really thankful for not only your wisdom and knowledge, but also for your patience, because we had some real challenge in the beginning. And I'm so grateful how gracefully you just came out of this and you were so patient and so understanding. And we still make it. We still made it happen. So that's amazing.
We
Thank you
made
so
it.
much.
It's all
And
good.
thank you so much, everybody who was watching us and stayed with us till the very end. Really appreciate you. And if you're watching this on the replay, please share with other people so the world can hear about Lee and can book him and also learn, because this is the most important thing. But remember, it's all about applying the new knowledge. Don't forget that it's good to listen to lots of videos, but you got to apply.
You got to wait for the
Love that.